Hi friends, it's Alyssa and welcome back to Meal Prep Week. So we are on day 5 of Meal Prep Week. We are finishing things out with a bang and we are talking all about batch cooking today. So throughout the week, I've been sharing full recipes that you can meal prep. You can spend some time over the weekend, make all of those recipes, and they should last you for at least 5 days in the fridge. But this video is more geared towards those of you who don't want to necessarily repeat the same meal over and over and over again. If that's you, but you still are interested in meal prepping, then batch cooking is the way to go. So let's talk about what batch cooking is. Essentially, batch cooking is just cooking up a ton of different ingredients, storing them separately in the fridge, and that allows you to create new meals every single day. So think about it like this. If you were going to make a Buddha bowl, for example, you might want quinoa, beans, roasted sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts, all those different things. So if you were batch cooking that meal, what you would do is cook a large batch of all of those ingredients, and instead of putting them all together in that bowl and keeping that bowl together in a container, you would keep all of those ingredients separate. So you could have the Buddha bowl, for example, one night, and then maybe the next day you could make a really yummy salad with some of those ingredients. The night after that, maybe you could do a pasta with some of the other ingredients. Essentially, it's giving you the flexibility to create your own new meals with a handful of ingredients. So in my mind, at least for how I live my life, batch cooking is definitely the way to go. I oftentimes get a little bit bored if I'm making like the same thing over and over and over again. But if I have a ton of those ingredients done, prepped ahead of time, I just have to go into my fridge, put them all into a bowl in whatever order I want, drizzle on a sauce, and I'm good to go. And I think it really helps me stay creative. It helps me, like, my palate feel like I'm eating things differently, but it's not necessarily adding a ton of extra time to my prep. So now that you kind of understand what batch cooking is, I think we should talk about the specific ingredients that are good for batch cooking. So I actually have a whole list of all of the ingredients that I think are really great for batch cooking inside of my Simply Prepped Meal Prep program. So if you want to learn more about that, I will leave a link down for you in the description box below. But essentially, think about it like this. Things that are great for batch cooking are grains. So things like quinoa, rice, pasta, also root vegetables, so those kind of heartier vegetables, things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squash, things like butternut squash, acorn squash, carrots, turnips, beets, things like that. Things that are really hearty and sturdy, those are definitely great for batch cooking. Also cruciferous vegetables, so things like cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and then also dark leafy greens. That's another great thing that you can cook ahead, but you really want to make sure that you're using a sturdy, hearty green, so something like kale, chard, collards, mustard greens, something that has like a little bit more depth than lettuce. Also proteins, so plant-based proteins, of course, like beans, tofu, tempeh. You can also use animal proteins if you use that, so chicken and beef, shrimp even. And then dressings are another great thing that you can batch cook, even though you're not really cooking, that you can make ahead and you can enjoy all week long. So in terms of cooking methods, the best thing that I recommend for each of those categories is this. Grains, obviously boil and drain, so you would boil it in your pan, drain out the water like pasta or quinoa, store that in the fridge. Root vegetables, I think, are great for steaming and roasting. Cruciferous vegetables, same thing. I think steaming and roasting are the best way to go. For your dark leafy greens, I think that the best method is either steaming or sauteing. And then if you're making protein, I personally like baked or grilled. And then dressings, you kind of just like make your dressing, put it in a little container and throw it in the fridge. And one thing to just keep in mind that when you are batch cooking and you're putting everything away, you want to make sure that you let it completely cool before you put it into your container so that you don't trap any of that hot air in there, you don't add too much moisture, and it doesn't let bacteria grow. So make sure that it is completely cooled, then you can put on your cover, and then you can pop it in the fridge. And the great thing about plant-based ingredients, which I've talked about a lot before, but they last in the fridge forever, so you can, well, not forever, but you can leave them in the fridge for 4 to 5 days and you'll be totally fine. I would say that dressings last like 6 to 10 days, And then animal proteins, if you do eat animal proteins, I would say 2 to 3. I don't really know. I'm not that experienced with keeping animal proteins, but that's what my kind of gut tells me. I wouldn't want to go longer than that. And then to finish things off, the best types of recipes that you can create with your batch cooked ingredients. I really think your options are endless, but you can make bowls, of course. So just like throw everything into a bowl, top it with a dressing, and you're good to go. You can also use a salad. So I like to keep my lettuce greens separate from anything else. That kind of helps them stay fresh for longer. But throw on some greens, top with whatever of those batch cooked ingredients that you have, drizzle on a dressing, and again, you're good to go. You can also do pastas. So you could like heat up the pasta that you cooked, throw in some roasted vegetables, maybe some sauteed kale. Again, you could drizzle it with a dressing, toss in maybe some fresh tomatoes, and of course, that's your meal right there. So there are really like no end possibilities. I personally end up using bowls most of the time, but I really encourage you guys to experiment. I encourage you guys to try a bunch of different vegetables, a bunch of different proteins, a bunch of different cooking methods. And if this feels a little bit overwhelming, which it might for some, no worries. I do have that program that I mentioned, and it's all about simplifying meal prep for you. We talk all about how to get started. We talk about the basics. We talk about the types of recipes. I give you really great formula cards for creating your own things like mason jars, oatmeal bowls, things like that. And then we also have recipes. So there's really something for everyone inside of that program. I'm so excited to finally release it. This has been a long time coming. So if you're interested in joining us and signing up, click that link that is in the description box. It's a really, really great program, and I know it's gonna help you. It's gonna save you time, it's gonna save you stress, and ultimately it will definitely help save you some money at the grocery store. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions for me, make sure to always leave them down below. I also have a more detailed blog post with photos and more of this information written out, so if you wanna read that, also in the description box below. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed Meal Prep Week. I hope you found it helpful. Hope you found it inspiring. And of course, I'm always here for you if you need anything. So use that comment box to your advantage and ask away. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next video next week. And I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye.